Chapter 34. As the black Cadillac rumbled through the winding, fog-laden roads of New Jersey, Tyler found himself staring out the window, watching as civilization gave way to something far older, far stranger. The trees lining the road grew twisted and gnarled, their skeletal branches reaching toward the sky like grasping fingers. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, and somewhere in the distance, a lonely wolf howled, its voice echoing through the desolation. Then, through the dense mist, Tyler saw it. The Addams estate. A sprawling Gothic mansion stood defiantly against the dreary sky, its blackened spires piercing through the low-hanging clouds. A massive iron gate, adorned with rusting skull motifs and twisted metal vines, creaked open as the car approached, as if welcoming them home. Beyond it, a long, winding driveway cut through the estate grounds, an eerie landscape of dead trees, overgrown hedges shaped like screaming faces, and flickering lanterns casting ghostly glows on the cobblestone path. To the right, an ancient graveyard stretched into the distance, rows upon rows of crooked tombstones leaning at odd angles, some cracked, others adorned with wilting flowers. An eerie green mist curled over the ground, weaving between the graves like living tendrils. Crows perched atop headstones, their dark eyes gleaming with intelligence as they watched the approaching vehicle. To the left, a murky swamp bubbled and frothed ominously, its dark waters swallowing the skeletal remains of trees long drowned beneath its surface. Strange, glowing eyes flickered beneath the water, vanishing just as quickly as they appeared. A crooked wooden sign stuck into the mud read, "Beware, quicksand. Or don't. It's your funeral." And then, the mansion itself, towering, looming, alive. It was a monstrous beauty, an architectural nightmare of sharp angles, dark stone, and intricate ironwork. Blackened ivy clung to its walls like veins pumping something unseen beneath the surface. Gargoyles crouched along the rooftop, their stone mouths twisted into eerie grins. Dim candlelight flickered behind stained glass windows, casting eerie shadows across the grand facade. Thunder rumbled in the distance, despite the sky remaining eerily dry. Tyler felt the Hyde stir violently within him, an almost manic energy radiating through his veins. "Oh, Tyler," the Hyde practically purred, his voice dripping with delight. "Now this is what we deserve." Tyler's fingers curled against the seat. He could feel it, the way the Hyde breathed in the very essence of this place, like it was nourishing him. "Do you feel that?" the Hyde continued, his voice giddy, breathless. "This place welcomes us. It sees what we are. We don't have to hide here. We can be here." A chill ran down Tyler's spine, but it wasn't from fear. It was something else entirely, something dangerously close to belonging. Gomez, as if sensing the shift in Tyler's energy, let out a grand laugh as he threw an arm around his shoulder. "Magnificent, isn't it?" he said, motioning toward the towering estate. "You can practically smell the centuries of history, of mystery, of murder. Ah, home sweet home." Pugsley nudged Tyler, his grin wide. "Wait till you see the guillotine in the backyard. We just got it refurbished." Morticia, ever the picture of eerie elegance, stepped gracefully onto the cobblestone path. "Come along, darling. You must be exhausted from your journey." Wednesday lingered beside Tyler for a moment before quietly saying, "It suits you." Tyler turned to look at her, something unreadable in her dark gaze. She wasn't just talking about the mansion. He swallowed hard, then nodded. "Yeah," he murmured. "I think it does." The Hyde, for once, had nothing snide to say. He simply laughed, a low, satisfied chuckle that sent a shiver through Tyler's core. As the Addams family led him inside, Tyler knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just a house. It was home. As the grand double doors of the mansion creaked open, a massive adolescent lion leaped forward with surprising agility, its golden paws landing on the stone steps with a dull thud. "Whoa!" Tyler jolted back, his instincts screaming at him to move. "Kitty!" Gomez called out joyfully, opening his arms as if greeting an old friend. To Tyler's astonishment, the lion immediately abandoned its playful pounce and bounded toward Gomez, purring, actually purring, as it rubbed its large head against his chest like an oversized house cat. Tyler blinked. "I didn't know you guys had a cat," the Hyde interrupted before Tyler could finish. Tyler flinched at the Hyde's sudden takeover, their voices colliding in his mind. "What are you doing?" Tyler snapped internally. "Don't be rude. They're letting us stay here. If they say it's a cat, then it's a cat." "Oh, trust me, I love this," the Hyde chuckled darkly. "A place where the impossible is normal? We are never leaving." Pugsley grinned as he leaned casually against the stone railing. "We were having a bit of a rat problem, so Father proposed we get a cat." Tyler side-eyed the lion, which was still purring as Gomez scratched behind its ears. "A bit of a rat problem?" Wednesday stood beside him, her expression calm as ever. "I would have preferred a black puma, but the local zoo didn't have any." Gomez, still scratching the lion's mane, nodded enthusiastically. "Ah, don't worry, my little viper. Once his mane fully grows in, it'll darken beautifully. I've ordered only the finest red meat for him." Then he turned to Tyler, his mustache twitching in disapproval. "You wouldn't believe how badly they neglected these cats at the store." Tyler eyed the lion again, its healthy coat gleaming under the flickering light of the estate's entrance. "He doesn't look neglected." "Ah, but it's not the weight you must look for, my boy, it's the mane," Gomez declared with conviction. "A lion with a thick, dark mane is the sign of a truly healthy beast." Before Tyler could formulate a response, Morticia's smooth voice cut through the crisp night air. "Let's go inside now, darling. Tyler still needs to settle in." And with that, they stepped into the mansion. Inside the Addams estate. The moment Tyler crossed the threshold, the air seemed to change. It was thick, not just with the scent of aged wood and burning candelabras, but with history. The walls themselves breathed, whispering the echoes of generations long past. The grand foyer stretched upward into a dark, vaulted ceiling, its wooden beams carved with intricate patterns of thorns, ravens, and sorrowful faces. A massive wrought iron chandelier dangled from the center, its dozens of candles casting flickering, elongated shadows that danced like specters across the walls. A sweeping double staircase loomed ahead, its railings shaped like curling talons, leading to the upper floors that disappeared into the dim lighting. At the heart of the room stood a massive bearskin rug, except it wasn't just a rug. The taxidermied bear still had its fangs bared in a frozen snarl, and its gleaming eyes followed Tyler as he walked. To the left, an open archway led into a parlor draped in deep crimson velvet, where ancient oil portraits lined the walls, each figure watching with eerie intensity. Some paintings even seemed to shift subtly, their subjects turning their heads when no one was looking. A crackling fireplace illuminated the room, the flames burning an unnatural shade of green. To the right, a dimly lit hallway stretched into the unknown, lined with flickering wall sconces. Along the floor, the occasional trapdoor creaked open before snapping shut, as if the house itself was alive. A towering suit of armor stood near the base of the staircase, an ancient battle-axe clutched in its gauntlet hands. As they passed, it tilted its head slightly, just enough for Tyler to notice. Then, from somewhere deeper inside, a distant scream echoed through the halls, followed immediately by a maniacal laugh. Tyler hesitated. Gomez clapped a hand on his back, beaming. "Ah. Sounds like Grandmama is experimenting in the kitchen again. Music to my ears." Tyler swallowed hard. Does she always get that kind of reaction?" Pugsley smirked. "Depends on the potion." Wednesday, unbothered, stepped further inside. "You'll get used to it." Tyler took another look around. The sheer oddity of it all should have unsettled him. Should have made him want to turn back. But instead, the Hyde hummed in approval. "This is our kind of place, Tyler. Feels like home, doesn't it?" For once, Tyler didn't argue. Because maybe, just maybe, it was. Dinner at the Addams estate. The Addams family dining room was a Gothic masterpiece. A massive, obsidian-black dining table stretched down the length of the candlelit hall, its surface gleaming like polished onyx. The towering walls were adorned with ancient tapestries depicting eerie battle scenes, haunted forests, and ominous creatures that seemed to move whenever one looked away. Above, a grand chandelier, crafted from bones and iron, swayed slightly, casting unsettling shadows against the high, vaulted ceiling. Lurch, the ever-faithful butler, stood tall to the side, his heavy-lidded eyes half hidden beneath his brow. He silently poured a thick, dark red wine into goblets as Thing, the sentient, disembodied hand, scurried across the table, skillfully distributing glasses, refilling drinks, and even slicing a roasted pig with practiced ease. Tyler sat beside Wednesday, still adjusting to the sheer absurdity of it all. In front of him was a plate of what appeared to be some sort of exotic meat, charred perfectly and seasoned with a blend of spices he couldn't quite identify. As he reached for his goblet, Tyler carefully asked, "By the way, what happened to school?" The question felt dangerous on his tongue. He was the reason Nevermore had fallen into chaos. He was the one who had attacked it under Miss Thornhill's orders. Wednesday barely glanced at him, her tone flat and factual. The fall semester ended early. The board has to find new teachers before the spring semester. Grandmama, Endora Addams, grumbled under her breath as she poured a bubbling, purple concoction into her own goblet. Incompetent fools. They let their school get wrecked by a single Hyde. She shot Tyler a glance, her gaze unreadable. "No offense, boy." Tyler swallowed. I'm sorry." Gomez waved a dismissive hand. "Don't be, my boy. It wasn't your fault." His expression darkened as he stabbed his steak with his fork. "We are looking into the death penalty for Miss Thornhill. Or Laura Gates, whatever her name is." Tyler tensed. The death penalty? The Hyde, lurking in the back of Tyler's mind, perked up. He paid attention now. Morticia took a slow sip of her wine before flashing a dangerous smile. "Don't worry, darling. Adele is very confident that she can make it happen. No court will ever allow a master of a Hyde to walk free, especially one who intentionally unleashed it." Wednesday, seated beside Tyler, spoke without emotion. "Hopefully, with her gone, no one will ever be able to control you again." Tyler looked around the table, at the people who had every reason to despise him, yet were fighting for his freedom. A lump formed in his throat. I don't know how to ever repay you." Gomez beamed, slamming a hand against his shoulder. "We're not asking for anything in return, my boy. So long as you keep our little death trap happy, you don't need to pay for a thing." Tyler didn't miss the way Gomez's eyes flicked toward Wednesday when he said it. The Hyde let out a low chuckle in the back of Tyler's mind. "Oh, I can do that." Still smirking, the Hyde took over just for a moment. He turned his head toward Wednesday, locking eyes with her. "I'll make sure to do that, Mr. Addams." Wednesday's dark eyes flickered with something unreadable, but she said nothing. Wednesday escorts Tyler to his room. After dinner, Wednesday led Tyler through the dimly lit corridors of the mansion. The shadows seemed deeper here, the air heavier, charged with something ancient and alive. Their footsteps echoed against the stone floors as they climbed a spiraling staircase that seemed to have no end. Finally, they stopped in front of a massive, iron-reinforced door. Wednesday pushed it open, revealing Tyler's new room. The Hyde practically shuddered with satisfaction. It was dark, vast, and elegant, almost like a Gothic prince's chamber. The walls were covered in deep black wallpaper with silver accents shaped like creeping vines and raven wings. A grand four-poster bed sat in the middle of the room, draped in heavy, blood-red velvet curtains. The bed frame itself was intricately carved, depicting wolves howling at the moon, their eyes made of polished obsidian. A towering fireplace crackled at the far end, its flames burning an eerie shade of blue. Above the mantel hung an enormous antique mirror, its surface slightly distorted, as if something was watching from within. Dark bookshelves lined the walls, filled with ancient tomes and peculiar artifacts. A single candle burned atop a heavy, blackwood desk, casting flickering shadows across the room. The faint scent of old parchment, leather, and something more primal lingered in the air. The Hyde exhaled in Tyler's mind. Oh, this is perfect. Wednesday turned to him, her expression unreadable. Tyler stepped inside, running his fingers along the smooth, cold wood of the desk. This is amazing. Good, Wednesday replied simply. Tyler hesitated for a moment before turning back to her. She was still standing by the door, watching him. His voice was quieter this time. Wednesday, thank you. You're doing all this for me. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took a single step closer, her dark gaze boring into his. Then, without warning, the Hyde surged forward. Tyler's expression twisted into something more sinister, more feral, as he leaned in, his lips hovering dangerously close to hers. His voice dropped to a wicked whisper. I'll make sure to torture you every waking moment of every day, cockroach. I'll do whatever it takes to make your life as unbearable as possible. Wednesday didn't even blink. She simply tilted her head slightly, studying him. I'd like to see you try. Then, just as suddenly, Tyler took back control. His breath hitched, his chest rising and falling as he clenched his fists. I promise I will never hurt you, Wednesday. Something flickered in her eyes at that, a softness so fleeting, he almost didn't catch it. And then, before either of them could think, Tyler leaned in. Their lips met in a slow, heated kiss. It started tentatively, Tyler brushing his lips against hers, testing, waiting. But when Wednesday didn't pull away, he deepened it, his hands gently cradling her face as he lost himself in the moment. Wednesday's fingers curled into the front of his shirt, pulling him closer. The Hyde purred in satisfaction, but, for once, he remained silent, simply reveling in the feeling. Time blurred. Tyler didn't know how long they stood there, tangled in each other, breathing in sync. But when they finally pulled apart, Wednesday's eyes burned into his, dark and unreadable. Rest, she murmured, stepping back. Tomorrow, we'll see what kind of man you really are. And with that, she turned and walked away, leaving Tyler alone in the dark. The Hyde chuckled. Oh, we are never leaving. Tyler exhaled shakily, touching his lips where Wednesday's kiss still lingered. For the first time in what felt like forever, he wasn't afraid of what came next. The fire in Tyler's room burned low, casting flickering shadows along the stone walls. The grand mirror above the fireplace reflected his silhouette, distorted by the wavering light, making him seem like something else, someone else. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. Then, the Hyde spoke. Home sweet home, he purred in the back of Tyler's mind. Admit it, you love it here. Tyler didn't respond immediately. Instead, he walked to the massive window, pushing aside the thick velvet curtains. The Addams estate stretched before him, its iron gates barely visible beneath the twisted, gnarled branches of the ancient trees that surrounded the mansion like sentinels. The moon hung high, casting its pale glow over the estate, illuminating the odd shapes lurking in the shadows, statues that seemed to move when he wasn't looking, creeping ivy that pulsed like veins. Finally, he whispered, It's different. Different, the Hyde echoed, amused. You mean perfect. No judging glances. No fake sympathy. No sheriff trying to make you into something you're not. Tyler stiffened. His dad. The Hyde chuckled, sensing the tension. Ah, there it is. Daddy issues. We should talk about that. Tyler clenched his jaw. Shut up. Or what? You'll lock me away? Please. The Hyde scoffed. Face it, Tyler. We don't belong to him anymore. We don't belong to anyone. Tyler's grip tightened on the windowsill. He wanted to argue, to fight, but deep down, wasn't the Hyde right? His father had barely looked at him after the truth came out. Hadn't tried to reach him, hadn't fought for him. Maybe it was the shame. Maybe it was fear. But in the end, Laura Gates, or Miss Thornhill, wasn't the only thing that made Tyler a monster. His own father had abandoned him, too. You know, the Hyde mused, his voice curling around Tyler's thoughts like smoke, I wonder what he'd do if he saw us now. Living with the Addams family. Sleeping in a haunted mansion. Kissing Wednesday Addams. Tyler's breath hitched slightly at the memory, the way Wednesday had pulled him closer, the way her lips felt against his. "Oh, you liked that, didn't you?" the Hyde taunted. "I don't mind sharing. She's fascinating. Deadly. The way she looked at us? She doesn't fear us, Tyler. She wants to understand us." Tyler swallowed hard. "I don't want to talk about this with you." "Then let's talk about your father instead," the Hyde offered mockingly. "Do you think he ever loved us? Or were we just his latest failed case?" A muscle in Tyler's jaw twitched. He forced himself to breathe, slow and controlled. He tried. Tried and failed, the Hyde corrected. Just like everyone else. Tyler hated how much that stung. "Face it, Tyler. He never really saw you. Just what he wanted you to be. And when you weren't that?" The Hyde's voice darkened. "He left." Tyler squeezed his eyes shut, willing the thoughts away. A sudden creak echoed through the room. Tyler's eyes snapped open. His pulse quickened as he turned toward the door, half expecting to see someone standing there. But it was closed. Another sound, this time from the ceiling. A slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap above his bed. Tyler's skin prickled. "See," the Hyde murmured in satisfaction. "Even this house knows you belong here." He turned back to the mirror above the fireplace, except now, his reflection wasn't quite right. The version of himself in the glass tilted his head at an unnatural angle, lips curling into a grin that Tyler wasn't making. His own eyes gleamed in the firelight, but in the reflection, they were golden. Hyde eyes. "Sweet dreams, Tyler." And just like that, the reflection returned to normal, his own weary face staring back at him. Tyler took a shaky breath, then turned away from the mirror, climbing into the massive four-poster bed. For a long time, he lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant, eerie sounds of the Addams estate in the dead of night. And somewhere deep inside his mind, the Hyde was still smiling. Like, comment and subscribe to be notified for updates in the series.